Investigators are still combing through the wreckage of the helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and 7 others. Authorities say that the aircraft was flying in fog so heavy even police helicopters were grounded.
New video appears to show Kobe Bryant's helicopter circling just minutes before the crash that killed all 9 aboard. The NTSB used a helicopter today to airlift key pieces of wreckage out of the rugged hillside crash site, while investigators hunted for smaller items. Investigators are poring over pilot Ara Zubayan's history and helicopter maintenance records. Preliminary flight data shows the trip started normally. About 15 minutes later, the pilot began to circle. The weather was getting worse as he waited 12 minutes for air traffic control to clear him onward. About 9:40, flying below the clouds, Zubayan asked controllers to track him on radar, but he was too low. 4 minutes later, radioing, he was climbing to go above the layer of clouds. Flying now in potentially blinding fog, he reached 2,300 feet before turning left. In its final 12 seconds, the helicopter began to dive, falling at nearly 5,000 feet per minute. The last recorded speed, about 184 miles an hour.
We begin tonight with the frightening moments in South Florida today. The powerful earthquake, they felt it in Miami, a 7.7 magnitude quake erupting along the same fault line that's affected Puerto Rico in recent weeks. The epicenter between Cuba and Jamaica, and you can see the school children here in Kingston, Jamaica, hiding under their desks. In Miami, workers evacuated from downtown high-rises, gathering in parking lots until they could be sure that the buildings were safe. There was a tsunami warning in the region for a time, and the concern tonight, that same fault line that's already been active.
They didn't want Brexit, they say, so why should they be taken out of the EU against their will? Now that Brexit is a done deal, their call for independence from England grows louder. They want another referendum. But British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the Scots had their chance in 2014, when 55% voted to stay part of the UK, and he's ruled out another vote. In Edinburgh, veterans of the independence cause say impending Brexit changes everything.
It's clear that the political environment is fundamentally different, that the promises that were made to people in Scotland in 2014 have not been fulfilled. That's why it's proper to revisit that question.
Local Conservative politicians say many Scottish voters might have voted SNP to stop Brexit, but not for independence.
New video has emerged showing the final seconds of a C-130 air tanker before it crashed in the snowy mountains. 3 US firefighters were killed in the tragedy last week, and today family members travelled to the crash site to pay their respects.
It's the kind of video shot countless times by locals thankful for the relief raining down from the skies. But this flight was not routine. The Canadian C-130 Hercules flew into a smoke cloud. The man with the phone tried to follow it but couldn't see it. We've frozen the image here, but just a few seconds later the plane can be heard crashing, the shocked man capturing the explosion that killed 3 US firefighters. At the Richmond Air Base today, family members were escorted onto an army helicopter and taken to the site to see for themselves the devastating aftermath of the crash that killed their loved ones.
There's no screening in place here at Charles de Gaulle Airport for these passengers returning from China. French authorities say there's no need, since the country has sophisticated tests in place if anyone does start to feel ill.
I would like to remind you that today in France we are benefiting from a rapid test that will be available more and more widely in the coming days, and this is important to be able to reassure people who are classified as possible cases and will therefore be excluded in a few hours or confirmed in a few hours.
The Health Ministry says it is prepared for more cases. Here at the Bishat Hospital, 2 patients who recently returned from China are being held in isolation, and the hospital says they're in a stable condition. 7 other bedrooms have been prepared for possible future cases.
With the rise in the number of infected patients and deaths, Tokyo is stepping up measures to help contain the situation and bring Japanese nationals residing in central Chinese city of Wuhan home. A number of Japanese companies such as Honda Motor and Tokyo Electron are located in the Hubei province, of which Wuhan is the capital. Japan's foreign ministry says 650 Japanese nationals there have asked to be evacuated. Officials say chartered planes are already being sent to evacuate Japanese nationals. First of such flights returned on Wednesday with about 200 passengers. The plane also delivered relief supplies such as protective gears, masks and other goods to Wuhan, which has been reported to be running short of such supplies.
The United Nations Special Envoy to Yemen, Martin Griffiths, said January had seen one of the quietest weeks in terms of fighting since the war began in 2015. But within days, the Houthis released pictures they said proved the conflict had entered a new stage, and that its fighters had taken over large parts of the strategically important mountainous region of Nehm, east of the Houthis' stronghold in the capital Sana'a, and moving the battlefield close to the city of Marib, which the government controls.
Our forces have retaliated to a recent attempt by Saudi-backed mercenaries to enter Sana'a. We have transferred the battle to their stronghold. Such mercenaries are only after the country's seaports, airports, oil and mineral wealth.
One after another, ministers arrived in Downing Street for the UK National Security Committee meeting. Some had already voiced their opposition to allow more Chinese technology in Britain. Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired the meeting, but let his Foreign Secretary face lawmakers in Parliament.
High-risk vendors should be, first of all, excluded from all safety-related and safety-critical networks in critical national infrastructure. Secondly, excluded from security-critical network functions. And thirdly, limited to a minority presence in other network functions up to a cap of 35%.
Huawei is, of course, satisfied with the decision for the 5G rollout and says it's based on evidence. It will lead, says its vice president, to an advanced, secure and cost-effective telecoms infrastructure.
موجود الآن أن نوصل رسالة للمدعو ترامب أننا رافضون لصفقة الخزي والعار، رافضون لكل من وقف معه من الزعماء العربية والأوروبية بصفقة الخزي والعار. نحن سندفع من دمائنا ومن دماء أبنائنا لأجل تحرير فلسطين كاملة بعاصمتها القدس الشريف، شاء ترامب أم أبى. والاتفاقيات والورق هذا كل اللي بيعمله إلى مزابل التاريخ.
Israel would be granted all of its land claims beyond what it captured in the 1967 war, contravening international law. Israel would also maintain security control over all Palestinian territories until Palestinians meet a set of conditions. Hamas in Gaza must renounce what it believes is its legitimate resistance. All of Jerusalem would belong to Israel until Palestinians earn East Jerusalem. The return of refugees is entirely off the table, and Palestinians would not seek any damages at the International Criminal Court.